All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we are unpacking a genuinely fascinating, incredibly expansive conversation between Elon Musk and Bill Maher. We're going to dive deep into Musk's overarching views on where human civilization is actually heading. Whether you are glued to tech news 24/7 or you just casually catch the headlines, understanding the philosophy driving one of the most influential guys on the planet is absolutely crucial. We're going to look at his take on the evolution of technology, that highly publicized Twitter acquisition, and his very urgent warnings about the future of artificial intelligence. Let's get right to it.
To really set the stakes for us today, I want to start with this striking historical premise from Bill Maher. He makes the point that while our history books are completely obsessed with kings and presidents, it's actually the tech innovators who truly change the world. As he puts it, they are the ones who deal the cards. And Musk, he completely agrees. He compares modern technological leaps straight to the invention of the Gutenberg press. Think about it. Before the printing press, even if you were starving for knowledge, books were just too rare to get your hands on. Technology creates these massive, undeniable step changes in civilization. It basically dictates the rules of the game that the rest of us end up playing.
Okay, here is our roadmap for today. We're exploring three massive pillars of Musk's current philosophy. First up, the dealers of history. Second, the digital town square. And finally, the push for AI referees. Starting with part 1, the dealers of history and humanity's new biology. So, Musk uses this incredibly powerful metaphor to describe the internet. He doesn't just see it as a bunch of servers and cables. He argues that creating the public internet is literally like humanity organically growing a global nervous system. Before the internet, information just traveled by osmosis, right? One person talking to another, maybe picking up a landline phone. Access was incredibly bottlenecked. But now, any part of humanity has instant access to the collective knowledge of our entire species. Musk points out this wild reality. A person standing right in the middle of the Amazon jungle with a satellite terminal literally has access to more information today than the President of the United States had back in 1980. We are wired together in a way our species has never, ever experienced. Moving right along to part 2, the digital town square and the battle for Twitter.
This number brilliantly illustrates exactly why Musk felt compelled to step into the social media arena. 130 million daily user hours. Musk breaks the math down like this. You've got roughly 250 million users spending an average of half an hour a day on the platform. But listen, it is not just about the sheer volume of time, it's about who is spending that time. Musk notes that this specific platform commands the attention of heavy readers, people obsessed with current events, and generally the most influential decision makers in society. So, he doesn't view his involvement as just buying another company. To him, he is managing the central hub where society's actual rule makers focus their daily attention.
So why drop billions to take drastic action and acquire it? Well, he lays out 3 distinct imperatives. Number 1, to establish and rigorously protect what he calls the digital town square. Number 2, to ensure both the actual reality and the public perception of trust for a super wide range of viewpoints. And number 3, to eliminate what he viewed as severe censorship. Musk points straight to the Twitter files as proof of government-driven censorship happening behind the scenes before he took over, something he forcefully argues is a direct violation of constitutional rights. He basically says his own instincts as a user were screaming that something wasn't right with how speech was being policed.
Which brings us to a highly charged term you probably heard Musk use, the woke mind virus. Now, for the sake of this explainer, we are just going to neutrally unpack exactly how he defines this concept in the interview. He views it as a cultural phenomenon with 2 really dangerous features. First, he says it's fundamentally anti-meritocratic, meaning you can't even question certain narratives without being immediately attacked. Second, he argues it results in the outright suppression of free speech, primarily through cancel culture. And Musk doesn't mince words here. He warns that if left unchecked, this phenomenon pushes civilization toward, in his exact words, suicide, because it completely shuts down open debate and breaks the basic machinery of a free society.
This ties directly into his observation about the shifting political spectrum. Musk points out that, historically speaking, free speech was a foundational, core value of the political left. It was championing the little guy's right to speak up. But today? He argues we're seeing the exact opposite. According to Musk, modern movements that identify as left-leaning are now displaying a heavy desire to actively censor opposing viewpoints and cancel individuals. He firmly believes that what gets labeled as wokeness isn't an evolution of traditional liberalism at all. He sees it as operating in total opposition to it.
To push back against this, Musk anchors his entire philosophy deep in the American First Amendment. His rule of thumb is this: free speech only matters when it's someone you don't like saying something you don't like. Because, let's be honest, it is super easy to advocate for speech you already agree with, right? The true test is tolerating the opposing side. He reminds us that the First Amendment exists precisely because the founders came from places where saying the wrong thing would literally get you locked in a dungeon. He contrasts the US with other countries, even close allies, where speech laws are what he calls draconian, where people are sued or jailed for abhorrent but ultimately non-violent speech. For Musk, protecting this specific freedom isn't a political talking point. It's a civilizational necessity.
To really illustrate his concern over how this ideological shift is trickling down to the next generation, he shares this fascinating, if troubling, anecdote. He talks about a friend living in the Bay Area whose high school daughters were asked what they knew about the first few U.S. presidents. They knew the name George Washington, sure, but literally the only fact they could name about him was that he was a slave owner. Nothing about the Revolutionary War. Nothing about founding the country. Musk uses this to argue that modern ideological indoctrination in schools is completely erasing nuanced history. He totally acknowledges slavery as a horrific institution, absolutely, but he insists that reducing massively pivotal historical figures down to a single negative trait is a prime example of the cultural trend he is pushing back against.
All right, let's pivot and look to the future. Part 3, the push for AI referees guarding the future.
Musk recently took a trip to Congress to sit down with lawmakers about the looming threat of artificial intelligence. And honestly, his logic here is incredibly straightforward. Think about aircraft, cars, our food supply, pharmaceuticals. What do they all share? They all pose a massive potential danger to the public if things go wrong, and therefore they all have a regulatory referee, the FAA, the FDA. Musk argues that AI is an unprecedented risk to the public, and it desperately needs a similar regulatory body. Without a referee blowing the whistle, he's terrified that competing tech companies, driven by this massive profit engine, will just cut corners on safety to beat the other guy to the finish line. And there is massive, intense friction at the very top of the tech world regarding this. Look at the split. On one side, you have Musk, who aligns with the late Stephen Hawking and Bill Gates, viewing AI as highly dangerous without strict oversight. Their ultimate goal? Literally just basic human survival. But on the flip side, you have heavyweight futurists like Ray Kurzweil. Kurzweil actually predicts we hit artificial superintelligence by 2029, and he thinks it's going to be a net positive. Why the optimism? Well, as Musk explains, Kurzweil and that camp see AI as the key to unlocking extreme human longevity and digital immortality. It is literally a clash between those who are terrified AI will end humanity and those who are hoping AI will help them live forever.
Before we completely wrap up today, it's worth taking just a second to humanize the massive scale of these topics. Amidst all this heavy talk about human evolution, free speech wars, and apocalyptic AI, Bill Maher actually asked Musk a simple question. Is he optimistic and happy? Musk shared his own personal formula for this. Love plus meaningful work equals happiness. He said to be fully happy, you have to be in love, and you have to love your work. If you're missing either one, you're only ever operating at half happy. It's just a really grounded reminder that behind all these billionaire-level, world-altering moves, there is just a human being trying to figure out life's basic equations.
Which brings us to our final takeaway. We've explored how Musk envisions the internet as humanity's new global nervous system, exactly why he felt forced to buy the digital town square, and his urgent plea for AI referees to protect us from our own inventions. But here is the ultimate question for us to chew on. Will this new hyper-connected nervous system and the push for AI oversight actually lead to unprecedented civilizational growth? Or will the friction of cancel culture and this reckless race for artificial superintelligence lead to our ultimate decline? How do you see these massive seismic shifts shaping your own future? Really think about that as you log off today. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and as always, keep questioning the world around you.